Hey guys, Josh and Michael here from Mixing Mango, and today we are going to talk about PKing in the EOC. So, there's a recent thread by, I think it was ModPie, talking about how they kind of want to revive the wilderness in terms of PKing, because really, the wilderness is dead. The only reason to go there is for warbands, and even then the PK is kept to a minimum, so there really has to be some sort of rework to PKing.
Yeah, so although this is really exciting news and it actually kind of looks like Jagex might actually be like listening to the community and actually seeing that they might be doing something, there does need to be definitely some changes, and we've actually thought about this quite a lot. We've talked about this and we've thought of some things that they really need to bring back or bring into the game to make PKing actually fun and make people do it again.
Yeah,
So
but the first thing just mention, this isn't going to be like a hate on the EOC or anything, but the one thing
oh
we
yeah,
will
definitely
say
not.
is we don't believe PK can truly come back in the EOC. If they really want to revive PK, the only way would to be remove the EOC, in our
Yeah.
opinion. But like we said, we do have some solutions how it could kind of work in the EOC, but it's never going to get back to sort of like the days of 2011 or something when PK was at its best, like people used to say. But I guess Jagex can try, so yeah, we've got some ideas here.
So yeah, the first thing is, I guess, is momentum PKing. This would just be kind of similar to how it used to be. No abilities, which are OP, just momentum, just the general auto attacks. That'd be really awesome. So what they could do with momentum PKing is actually bring back specs, but you're only able to use specs when you're in momentum. So, but also the only way to then stop people from using abilities and rushing people, you can't actually attack people if you're using momentum. So a person using momentum can't attack someone using who isn't on momentum, and someone on momentum, off momentum, sorry, can't attack someone who is on momentum.
Yeah,
And this
that
would
would kind of
kind of
like
stop.
it would keep
Yeah,
both ways as well. Like if you want to peak off abilities, you can. If you want to use
yeah, exactly.
momentum, you can do that as well. And because it wouldn't really work if you could someone with momentum could try and take on some of abilities, because the guy with abilities is probably
Would
just
just
gonna
wreck them. Yeah,
destroy them.
exactly.
Really. So yeah,
Because there's no freedom when you have momentum, so it's just kind of overpowered if there isn't like a difference between the two.
exactly. That wouldn't really work. But the idea of specs coming back, like to be honest, in PVM, I'd quite like specs to return as well. But if just for PKing, like it just brings a bit more variety. Really, more weapons sort of have a use, but they would kind of have to buff a lot of the specs, like declaws. It would have to have a fairly high KO potential, like probably the combo hitting like 5k or something if it's ever going to do damage. So they're going to have to like rebalance all of that, but it would be nice if specs were to return.
Yeah, it would be really awesome if they could bring it back, because some of the weapons that are just completely and utterly useless now, like Granite Maul, DDS,
Yeah,
Dragon Claws, they're all just completely useless. But if you go back 1 or 2 years ago, they were like some of the most used weapons because of their great specs that they have. So
exactly.
it's kind of annoying that they just devalue some of those really good weapons,
Yeah, I don't
and
know
it just
about
makes
you,
them
but
useless, really.
I'm not a massive fan of the tiered weapon system. How it's like it just goes chaotic to Drygor, and like Drygor is the best. I kind of like it how it used to be, where while you wanted chaotic for everything, actually bringing like a dragon weapon was still going to do a fair bit of damage, like bringing claws or like a dragon mace or something. Even a DDS, that was still going to help with the fight. So again, it's just adding variety, which just isn't
Yeah,
seen,
exactly.
because it really is just. Well, I mean, it should be you basically just use the max gear in PKing, but as we see, it's purely just like batwing risks and stuff like that. But yeah, it's all just tiered, which just doesn't really work for PKing, really. I would say.
No, exactly. Yeah, because the other weapons just are useless, really. Dragon weapons, they just don't hit hard enough. It's kind of like if you don't have Drygor's Chaotix, you're not really hitting like high enough. So
Yeah, that's the thing.
it just doesn't make PKing that accessible, really, to be honest.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the basics of momentum PKing. There is some stuff that they should just do to like the whole wieldy, really, which is firstly bring back PK skulls and multi area. I'm not sure why they quite removed this, but for PK skulls, before you could sort of like risk Torva pre EOC, or well, not really risk. You could take Torva, but not
Yeah,
risk it,
exactly.
because if you don't skull, you protect the three pieces of Torva plus a weapon. Now it's sort of there is no chance of doing high risk fights because no one's going to risk that kind of money. So having skulls back it's a lot better system in my opinion. I mean, the only reason I could see to remove it was so you could like kill bots more easily, but now that's not really a problem anymore. There's not much reason to not have skulls, so hopefully they do bring that back. In terms of like the multi area, get rid of the whole you can multi anywhere or single anywhere. Just make it so they have the set areas again.
Because that means that like, well, like I remember going back into the wilderness in like 2007, and then you just didn't go into a multi area because you just have clans of people with like mage robes just like banging you as soon as you get in there, and I just kind of want that fun kind of exciting element back into the wilderness, and they can't really do that if everyone is going into single or everyone is going into a multi. They really need to make specific zones.
Yeah, exactly, because if you were trying to PK in a clan, all the person has to do who's like trying to get away is turn into single, then the guys in multi can't even attack, so it doesn't make much sense. And it is the wilderness. You know when you're going in there's a risk of being attacked, so you should know if you're going into multi-zone, well, there's actually a chance that you could die. So that kind of just brings back sort of the more excitement, a bit of risk back into wilderness, which is always useful. The next thing is set effects.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, basically I personally think this would be really, really exciting if they brought back making set effects actually useful. Stuff like Darox is like the set effect on it is absolutely rubbish. We were trying it the other day in the duel arena, and pretty much when you're low Darox HPing, you can hit like 800s. It's like,
I know. I think we
instead
maxed
of like 600 or something.
1.5k or something.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
Like 200 HP, which is probably like 1% of your life points or something like that. So it's ridiculous, really. You can't hit at all with Darox.
Yeah, they really need to make Darox like, when you're low HP and you're able to hit like 8Ks or something like that.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I think that would be really good.
Yeah, because like pre-EOC, if you're on like 1 life point, you could easily, well, not easily, but you could hit that like 99 to just down someone.
Yeah, you could KO someone. So.
But now it's like, if you're on 1% of your life points, you can hit a quarter of their HP, which doesn't quite make sense. Like, maybe it's not balanced if you can completely down someone, but it should be like, yeah, you can hit 8Ks. You're hitting like 90% of the life points if you're like 1% HP. But just set effects in general, like for all the barrows, it's not really prominent anymore. They kind of got rid of it. Maybe even bring in new ones, sort of maybe do what they did before with like power armors. Actually, if you wear full bandos or something, you've got a damage boost, something like that, just so it would kind of get a bit more risk. Possibly people might want to risk, or at least take in bandos, and then they'd be risking like boots and gloves if skulls were back in. But just that kind of thing, like set effects for anything really. Maybe weapons, they could sort of work that in, but it's just, again, set effects kind of makes it so maybe lower tier gear sort of has a use, but also everything does have a use in certain situations. It's not just the best things are always the best, which some people might like that, but for us, I don't know, tiered systems just not really the way to go.
Exactly. So next is abilities. I think we were talking about this and we wanted to see some changes to abilities. The first part is you just die too quickly with abilities. Like basically, you use an adrenaline pot, hit a couple of hits, and use asphyxiate, and then somebody's dead. It's
exactly. Like we were doing that in a duel arena, and you beat me every time just from doing that. There's not really much
just because
counter.
I would get my ability, like get 50% first, and then I'd be able to win. So
yeah, because my tactic was just to try and get 50. Yours was adrenaline pop first, and that would win every time because it's purely just get to thresholds and you've won. So that's kind of a problem.
And the next one we were talking about which is actually combined with asphyxiate, is stuns. Stuns are just way too overpowered. The fact that you can use a stun and the person just can't eat, can't do anything unless they use freedom. And if they've used freedom, and then you stun them again, it's just like they just can't do anything, and it just makes it just a bit unfair and just a bit overpowered, really. I think they really need to change something to do with that.
And yeah, there's very little tactics with stuns. It is purely like if you stun them and use the right threshold, you're gonna beat them. That's the only problem there. It's like if there was a bit of tactic, then I guess it kind of be okay, but the fact is there isn't. So stuns either need to have a reduced time, maybe like 3 seconds max, or just have less chance of hitting, something like that, because it's just a bit too powerful at the moment, really. But the next thing is there isn't really any KO potential in the EOC at the
Yeah,
moment.
one hit KOs. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Because like all your basics sort of just constantly hit sort of around 2k maybe. Thresholds are like 2ks but in combos, so it's not really like you can't really do big hits. You can't just hit that like 6k with an ability unless it's an ultimate, which even then I don't really know if they hit that high in PKing, but it's like there really used to be those abilities that hit like those 6ks, those 8ks, which will just combo out the person. They can't really eat back from that, and that's just not seen at the moment really.
Yeah, because like when we in the old combat system, you saw stuff like DDS, Dragon Claws, Granite Maul, you could Darrick's Great Axe. You could like get a DDS spec and you could hit like 400 or something crazy like
Yeah.
that, and then back in '07 you could hit like 40 and you could down them. But there just isn't anything like that anymore, and that's why you need to they need to bring back special attacks just to like kind of make that kind of KO potential and just make funds a bit more exciting and erratic, really. So
Yeah, because like it's hard to bring back KO potential with abilities, because like
yeah, exactly.
you can't really just have one ability that always hits 8k
It would make
if the
it
others
so
are hitting
OP,
2k
yeah.
or something. So it would be a bit hard to balance that, I guess. Yeah, like you said, specials are probably the only way. Maybe like I saw some suggestions of like having a unique ability for each weapon or each class of weapon. So like claws could possibly have like the old Dragon Claw special as an ability. Maces could have like the old Dragon Mace special as an ability, like that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
that'd be cool. Yeah.
Possibly, but yeah, it's kind of hard to sort out KO potential. But there has to be some kind of sort like fix for it, because you can't just be doing constant damage to actually get a kill. Or like that's not what makes it fun, because really the fun thing about pre-EOC PKing was the fact that some people might find it boring, sort of just waiting, hitting those 300s, then eating, like vengeance, that kind of thing. But then it was just waiting for that like 800 Darrock's hit, or that like 600 claw spec, like back-to-back 600s, something like that. That was the fun thing, just looking for those high hits. But it's just that doesn't happen anymore. Which I guess, yeah, if they saw a KO potential, that would really help.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing I actually just thought about was the fact that when you're using abilities, you can't actually hybrid or tribrid because
true.
of like the respawn, the what's it called, the delay on
When you switch.
abilities when you switch weapons. And I think they really need to actually get rid of that, because at the moment it kind of makes hybriding completely useless. And if you want to use like two different styles to kill someone in the wielder, you just generally can't, because it's
Exactly.
just the respawn time will just kill you. So it's just annoying, really.
Yeah, because like while you're switching, they can still just keep attacking
And then
you.
yeah,
You've got
exactly. Yeah.
nothing. So that doesn't really work. The other thing, sort of to go along with that, is food doesn't reduce adrenaline, because the fact is, if someone's completely smashing you, you're going to be constantly eating. You're going to be at 0 adrenaline for most of the time, and so you've got no chance to kill them really, because they're going to keep gaining adrenaline.
Yeah, exactly,
You've got
yeah.
none. So really, if food doesn't decrease adrenaline, then at least you kind of have a chance. And maybe some people would say like, if you are losing, you shouldn't really be able to make a comeback, but I that's not really fun. I would say
It's gonna be a bit more random. I think that just
Yeah.
makes it more interesting. The fact that you could just get KO'd at any point.
yeah,
If
the
you're on
randomness is
0
fun.
adrenaline, then there's just no chance.
Yeah, you're not going to hit 8k of a basic or anything, so
No, exactly.
yeah, I mean, maybe they could rework it so it's slightly less, but there definitely needs to be just some rework of that, because if you're losing, you've basically lost. There's no comeback. Like if you were losing, like take Darrock's for example, if you're losing a fight pre-EOC, as you get lower health, you can hit higher, so you still have a chance. Even other stuff, you could easily make a comeback, because accuracy was a lot less. Like you were missing quite a lot of the fight pre-EOC, so you can quite easily eat up. But now it's just like you don't really miss at all. Doesn't matter what weapon you're using, you are going to hit. So there isn't really any chance to come back, which is sort of a problem. The last thing actually there's a few more things for abilities, is the combat triangle, and it just doesn't really work. It's sort of too forced at the moment. I was gonna PK Michael for his, was it Death Lotus set or something that you bought by accident, or for range.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't buy it for accident, but yeah, I didn't want it anymore.
I was gonna, so I used a Granite Mole just because I don't know, it's kind of a weird weapon. I thought I'd try that out. Using Granite Maul to PK him, and obviously melee is strong against range. But Granite Maul is level 50, I want to say. Deathlos is level 85. Yeah, I was constantly hitting 2Ks on him, which 50 to 85 doesn't make sense. If it was like my weapon was 50, his armor was 60, then maybe, but surely that's kind of too forced if you're still hitting like the exact same, even though the other person's armor is so much better than yours. So the combat triangle was kind of imbalanced, I would say.
And it also just kind of creates, I think if they just like took out the combat triangle, well, they made the combat triangle better, it kind of takes out the fact that in the wilderness back then, there used to be kind of a tier. You'd see your rune fights, you'd see your Darox fights. Like Darox would be the high tier. They would have like the god swords, the Darox great axes, and then below that you have your rune fights, and below that you have like your rock shell fights, and below that you have like your monk robe fights. And it just like at the moment, someone in monk robes could beat somebody in Darox, just the fact that the abilities, they just hit the same on everyone.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of pointless. It doesn't create that kind of tier system where people with more money are having higher risk fights. So it's just...
Yeah, that is definitely
It just
a
kind of
problem.
makes it silly, yeah.
I mean, the only problem now is that if you're in monk robe, you don't have enough life points.
Oh yeah, obviously.
But then it is, you're still hitting the same thing, which just doesn't make sense. So yeah, the triangle needs to be sort of rebalanced, sort of not as prominent really, because while maybe melee should beat range, the main advantage of mage and range is that you can shoot from afar. So that sort of should be the main advantage over melee, rather than melee can just completely destroy range at any time. So they need to sort of work on that a bit. But that's mostly all the stuff with abilities. The last thing is sort of there's no risk involved at the moment. Like no one actually risks anything. It's just Batwing and Polypores, and then if you got protect item, then you don't even risk a Polypore. So it's like a 50k risk or something like that. It's just ridiculous. And there's no, I mean, Jagex can't really do something to fix that, but they need to find something. I guess bringing back PK Skulls might sort that out slightly, but there needs to be some sort of way to make people risk more. Don't really know what that would be.
Yeah, true.
But I guess the last thing is the combat formula. So 200 combat, probably the worst idea that they ever made. I mean,
For
just
PK,
in general.
it's just... Well, yeah, in general, but like, it doesn't actually matter at places like Bandos and God Wars Dungeon. Like, but at PK, it just completely destroys it, really.
Like, you would have to actually look up people's stats to see how good they are, because 200 means nothing. That means they have 99 defense, 99 attack, and they could have 1 strength, they could have 1 magic, 1 range, 1 prayer, 1 summoning, 1 herbal. It means absolutely nothing. So they should bring back the old combat formula, but even if they don't bring back the old one, they should bring back a sort of revised one. It should include all the stats, should include summoning and prayer. Maybe throw in Herbler in there, possibly, but definitely like if your person's a melee guy, then it's got to include attack, strength, defense, and
definitely
HP. If it's mage, it's got to be mage, defense, HP, that kind of thing. Like the new one just doesn't work, the formula. So yeah, they definitely need to fix that. And actually, just something to go along with that in terms of summoning. Combat familiars are useless. Like Steel Titan level 99. What does that hit? Like we actually tried this in the duel. I was saying like
300.
300.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. Level 99 familiar. So that definitely needs to be buffed. Summoning. I don't really know what to. Like a Steel Titan maybe hitting thousands with the specs, maybe like 2k or something like that. But 200, 300, that is absolutely nothing. There needs to be something done about that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that's basically it. Do you have anything else on that?
No, not really.
No, so...
Talked about a lot, so yeah.
Yeah, it's a long video. But yeah, so we'll leave a link to the sort of thing we were reading, the ModPie post, in the description. You can check that out. It's like 150 pages, so it's very long, but just check out
some
of
it. But some of it is really interesting. Like the first post the Pie talked about, and about how they talked about PKing at RuneFest is quite interesting, so definitely read that.
Yeah, check out that stuff. Probably should have said this at the beginning of the video, but it's this long, so it's more meant just for listening than watching it.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll leave your feedback on sort of PKing, maybe even just the EOC in general, but keep it sort of like on topic. Don't just hate the EOC.
Yeah. Don't
but,
do
yeah.
07 versus EOC stuff.
Yeah, none of that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Bye, guys.